Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am so thrilled to welcome you to the book launch of Stories from the Muses. My name is Fiore Higgins, and I have the fortunate role of being your host for this discussion today. It's so thrilling to see all the people from around the world who are making time out of their weekend to join us. So I thank you. It is going to be an amazing time together. We're going to be spending the majority of our time today in conversation with our amazing authors. And I encourage you all to chat Ria, Maria Iliffe-Wood, affectionately known as Ria, if there are any questions that you would like to ask during the call, and she will relay them to me. Also, if you have any technical issues, Dan Higgins is your tech host. So please chat him if you have any questions. And just to keep in mind, the journey today doesn't end after our time together. There's going to be additional opportunities to hear from our authors. They're also going to be featured in our very own Anna Scott's podcast, My Love of Life Energy. So if you can sign up for alerts through IW Press, we will be happy to keep you updated on these future events. There will also be another interview series with a smaller group of the authors so we can spend even more time with them. This gem of a book, Stories from the Muses, while we're here today, is currently available for purchase on Amazon. And the links are posted in the chat right now if you want to grab your copy. Just so you know, all the proceeds from the sale are going to be used by IW Press to help authors that have a strong story to tell, but don't have the financial means to bring their work into the world. Before we start with the authors, I want to introduce Ria Iliffe-Wood, who none of this would be possible if it weren't for her. So she is our author and publisher extraordinaire, and she's going to give us a bit of a background about the book and how it came to be today.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so as you probably all know now, this is the second book in the series of method writing books with Method Writing with Jules Swales, who's I can see in my corner, my screen. I don't know if everybody else is in the same place. So A Different Story was the first book in the series, and that came about because Jacqueline had the brilliant idea of coming up with a book after the authors involved in that had been involved in the character class with Jules in the summer. And then I can't remember exactly when it was mooted that maybe we do more than one book. And we came up with, there's quite a few ideas milling around in the ether about more method writing books with Jules Swales. And so after the success of A Different Story, which was just an amazing success, not just in the sales of the book, but in the difference that it made to the people involved, we decided that we really wanted to do a whole series of them. And so the plan is to do quite a few of them. And the Muses seem to be the next, the best time, the best level to do the next book at. The reason for that is because when people do the Muse level, it makes such a huge difference to them on a personal level as well as on a writing level. And the stories that came out that we were hearing in class were just so brilliant. So about a year ago now, we invited everybody who has done the Muse level to ask them if they wanted to contribute to this book. And we were inundated with people who wanted to be involved, and all just such brilliant authors. So everybody submitted, most people submitted 7 pieces, some submitted 1 or 2 less. And then we had the hard choice of deciding which ones to choose to go in the book, because we couldn't physically fit all of them without it making it an encyclopedia sized book. So we had to really select the pieces for the book. and then it's gone from there. So that's kind of the start of it and why we started it. And it's just been amazing. It just, like, the pieces in this book, the authors involved, they're stunning, absolutely stunning. So it's such a brilliant day to be here now. It feels like a long time ago since we started, but to be here now with all of these gorgeous people, it's just brilliant.
It is. And then just to see the pages and pages of people who are joining us from around the world, it's just amazing. Well, thank you. And before we start our conversation, we have a treat. So we're going to begin with a very special reading. So each one of our authors who are featured in Stories from the Muses was asked to pick a line. Of all the pieces, one line that kind of resonated the most with them. And Ria, our publisher extraordinaire, compiled them into an amazing, amazing poem. So 6 authors will read the piece: J.B. Hollows, Mer Monson, Lucy Sheffield, Vanessa Poster, Jennie Linthorst, and Linda Pritcher. But please keep in mind that every single one of the authors, while they're not reading, one of their lines is in this poem. So I encourage all of you to just close your eyes and just receive it in, because it is really a magical piece.
The Breath of God, a Writer's Journey, a compilation poem of lines taken from the book Stories from the Muses.
Can't tell a crocus not to grow in the dirt. They pop out wherever there is a shaft of sunlight. I was out of my depth, a shy, self-conscious teenager, a thin layer of puppy fat, my only defense. My life as a young woman was a tale of a cherry, preserved in a sweet syrup of constricted beliefs and false values.
I don't know who I am when I write. It's the undoing that scares me. My fear is that the power unleashed will destroy what I've become to rely on, the normality, the mundane, the benign.
I wanted to give what I had not gotten, the gentle hand stroking my back, stroking my hair at the end of a long day, stroking the embers of good enough, and it will be okay. I'm a pretender. I've always been one. I wonder the difference between one thing and another, between one reality and another.
I am the fire that began before the blaming of Eve, when sister turned on sister and the silence of man lay still. Heartbreak, like death, not a sudden grapple of worm on a line, but a drawn out building of a dam, stick by stick.
I had to pull down brave from wherever it had been hiding. Wisdom is my weapon of choice, loaded with trust. Dark night will be my salve, moonlight my balm.
I am all the arms and breath of God, the child, the maiden, the mother, the huntress, the crone, the seductress, and Medusa am I.
Wow. I need a moment from that. It is astounding to me that 14 different humans with different experiences on this world can be so touched by these muse energies and create this piece that, my gosh, it just feels like it was one voice. That was absolutely outstanding. I'm just so humbled to be sharing space with you right now, you gorgeous, brave artists. So thank you for that. I really do think that it really shows how what this tapping into this muse energy can do for all of us. And I think it's just the wonder of creative genius that is almost like the thread that contains us all in our human existence. It was beautiful. Thank you. Wow. So we're going to start with some questions now. And we're going to start with one of the reasons why we're all in this room today, and that's with Jules. And so, my first question is, we're throwing around this term muse energy. And, even the line talked about all the different muses that are all running through us. What does it even mean to write from a muse? What does that even mean?
I think it means something different for everybody. And I think that's probably why it's such an impactful level when people get to level 4. There's not a sort of a standard notion of what the mother muse might be or what a child muse might be. We have an idea of it in our mind, but the archetypal energy of that muse is very individual. And sometimes it's surprising for the writer when they do settle in and are accessed by and access, their own personal Medusa muse energy or their own personal child muse energy. And that's the beauty of the journey, is that it's so individual. And when people read the book, I think they're going to sort of notice that, how you can have a group of people all writing to the Medusa muse. And when we edited, and went through all the pieces, we were like, how can so-and-so get this from the huntress and someone else has got this from the huntress? And that's what's so remarkable about the book and that goes to highlight that it's individual for everybody, and there's just such a rich beauty in that, I think. The muses that we talk about are, child, maiden, virgin, mother, siren, seductress, whore, huntress, crone, hag, witch, and Medusa. But they're not gender specific. So when the guys do it, I can change the names. They're not age specific. I've had a lot of young people who have written amazing crone, hag, witch, muse energy pieces in class, because it's part of us on a cellular level. These energies are, and what the exercises do. And people, if you buy the book, there's our hope is that you'll go practice yourself, and you'll read the book and you'll read my directives at the end of the book, and you'll guess some of the muses yourself, and then you'll go practice. And we really hope that will be the case. But it takes a little digging. I often say the first level is the trickiest, and then the 4th level and the 7th. And I think all the writers here, you don't know, those of you who haven't done level 4 yet, or who've never studied with me, or who've done it and was like, no way am I entering any pieces into the book. It was not fun, which is the case for some people, because it does require some solo exploration, but not in a sort of therapeutic way, but just in a soulful way, an uncovering way. And who doesn't want to get to know themselves a little better, uncover more layers of themselves? And when you read the stories and you read the poems and the pieces, you're going to be able to tell that these writers poured themselves into this work. It's palpable. It's palpable. And yes, I'm not sure if I said this, but it's not therapy. It's not therapy. This is not about putting your child voice in the chair and having a gestalt conversation with your child. It's definitely not that. It's writing. It's absolute writing, but sometimes it can feel therapeutic. Definitely.
As a question for you off the back of that, putting the child self, if you're writing from a child muse, do you write about being a child? Do you write about it?
You might, it's a great question. That might be where you end up, but with every single person who wrote pieces for the book, they've written a piece where you would never in 100 years think that was either the child muse or the huntress muse. And we play a game in class where we guess, what we think the muse is, which is always quite fun. And then we're like, what? No way. That couldn't possibly be the mother. You sounded such a whore on the page, or something fun like that. Or somebody, no mentioning any names, but they are here right now. One of the things I often share with my new students who are doing this level, were doing the Medusa muse and thinking it was going to be a lot of heat and a lot of energy and a lot of upset. And her Medusa muse was tired, weary and tired. And it was one of the most beautiful examples of how somebody was willing to go beyond what they wanted the Medusa muse to be, to actually what it was for them. And it wasn't all fire and brimstone and snakes and angriness. Her Medusa was tired.
It sounds like there's a lot of surprises to be had.
I think whenever we pick up a pen, Jamie, and start writing, if we're lucky enough, there's a lot of surprises, and that's what, the quote I share in class so much is from Frost, right? No tears for the writer, no tears for the reader, no surprise for the writer, no surprise for the reader.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I think that's enough about me. What we're really here to do right now is to celebrate these guys. And so let's hand it over. I'm sure the audience have lots of questions for the writers.
And I had a question for Sam Herman.
Hi there.
Hi. So I was curious because after Jules did such a great kind of overview, obviously there's a lot of excavating going on as you guys have explored yourself. What's it like being so revealing with people in that kind of Zoom setting, not only in class, but also right now?
It's a little unnatural at first. I have to say it's a kind of a step into the unknown. And I think certainly for me, when I first started off, I didn't know from Zoom. It was a whole new world. And it seemed very strange to be in a situation where we're suddenly revealing parts of ourselves, and to explain that a bit more. I think because method writing, and particularly the way that Jules holds us and leads us through it, is really trying to get to our own voice. So the first process is about stripping away anything that could be writerly. We're not trying to be writers. We're trying to speak write in our own voices. And that's so different. And I think that by the very nature of that, it means that we've got to dig deep a bit, and sometimes dig a whole lot deeper and carry on. And it's like those sorts of layers of the onion peeling off and peeling off. And so once it starts off, I think, with a step, you kind of got to hold yourself and go, here I go. And then there's this expert holding from Jules. And then because it's not therapy, and because we're all writing, obviously there's a spark of truth, I think, in everything, but we don't ever know what is coming out. And that in and of itself is actually quite comforting. And then there's that whole process of, being in a class and really hearing other people, and through hearing other people dig deeper and go closer into their truth. That then encourages, or certainly has really encouraged me to dig in deeper and find my way through.
It sounds like this kind of beautiful authenticity is offered in this community.
That's it, exactly. I have to say, it's amazing. I mean, I've now been part of this process for 2 years, maybe a bit longer. And I feel that I've really developed connections with people all over the world. And it's remarkable that we've never sat in a room together. And yet I feel so close and so connected and so supported. and so interested. You know, there's another part of this. You get really curious about what's going to come up as well, because part of the digging process means you never know what you're going to find. There's always something there that's new, that's a surprise, and that's across the board. So we go into class and you can sometimes see the surprise on somebody's face as well, because they didn't know they were going to come up with a piece of writing that they did, because it's not from here, it's kind of from here, and we're following exercises, we're being held and supported in it and guided, and then poof, there's a surprise.
And it's beautiful because I feel like there's surprise for one another, but a surprise for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The whole beauty of this, I think, is that I've never really had such an example in my life before of being an individual in a community where there's so often we'll be given an exercise and people, you know, we're not sharing anything. We come to the class and there will be similar threads in it, but they're each unique and individual. And it's just remarkable to me to see this kind of human enterprise, how it's unfolding.
And, you know, it's like, I think, you know, our stories are more similar than different, right?
Oh boy, yes.
As
yes.
humans. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Sam. Linda Sandal Petit, where are you, gorgeous woman? I see you now. I'm, you know, curious about, I know you're also writing on a memoir, you know, beyond this. And I was curious about how publishing your writing in this book, which I believe predated your, you know, kind of going out with your memoir, how has that influenced you?
Well, significantly, I've been writing for 50 years in many different contexts. And when I met Jules, my memoir, which is entitled Leaning into Curves, A Therapist's Rediscovery of Love and Wisdom, she suggested that I stop and wait a number of classes until after the Muse class to go back and revisit it and revise. And I just took her for a word and did that. I had about 2/3 of the book written at that point. And when I went back after the Muses class and started working on the revisions, I was astonished to discover that the pieces lacked a certain energy. And I looked at them and I thought, I can go deeper. And I understand how to do that. I understand how to find a certain energy that I'm wanting to communicate, a Muse energy, and play with that and see how that affected the pieces. And I've just been astonished at the change in my writing and the change in the discovery of myself. The way I think of it is that at the core of all the pieces I wrote, and at the core of every chapter in the memoir, what is love. But when I sit in a Muse energy, that love has a flavor. And it, I don't know, it just somehow comes alive. My book has been through now the first round of editing with a professional editor. And when she read it, she said to me, in all of the pieces, I have a sense that you're in this place where there's an energy that is so alive and I'm so engaged. And I want more. And then there are other times when you go and you are sort of commenting on your story. And she says, that's appropriate in certain areas, but I want more of the first. And I don't know that I would have known what she was talking about without having taken the Muses class and come to some deeper understanding of what it means, what they mean.
So this is really a, like, I mean, this editor actually labeled it without labeling it.
Yeah.
Like actually saw, so the actual texture of the writing changed.
Yeah.
To that, literally the editor was able to kind of identify what was driven from Muse energy versus not. That's remarkable.
Yeah, she gave me some examples, specific examples from different chapters. She'd say, look at that. I was like almost not breathing as I was reading this section. And she said, and there's a place to where you want to step back as a reader and kind of take a deep breath and then jump back in. But sometimes that deep breath becomes more than a pause, and then I lose interest. And then you pull me back in. And so it was really fun to be encouraged to do more of what I saw as sitting in those Muses energies and really writing from there. And the result was that it took me in new places. I had to ask myself how generous I wanted to be with how much I shared with people. And because there's a risk, there's a sort of vulnerability and disclosure, but I wanted first and foremost to tell the truth and to be real. And so sitting in my deep voice got easier and easier.
And it seemed like tapping into this Muse energy really took it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's remarkable. I think it's so remarkable that here a professional editor who I'm assuming is not in the method writing world,
That's right.
basically like felt this special something,
right,
that the Muse energy offered you beyond this amazing book, but in an application for your own memoir.
Right.
That's amazing. You talk a little bit about vulnerability. Is there something about tapping into the Muse energy that has kind of made you step into that a little more as you put this bigger work out in the world?
Well, absolutely. There were a couple pieces that are in this book, Stories from the Muses, that are pretty disclosing of experiences that I had in my life. And I think that one of them in particular was part of why there's a notice on the book that it has some mature content in it. And it was fascinating to me that it came out of me, that the words came out of me the way they did. And then, like Sam said earlier, there was a sort of like, do I really want to share this? How's it going to be received? What will people think of it? But the more I thought about that, the more I thought, what I really want to do is just tell the truth. And the power is in the listener to either receive it or not, and I don't have any control over that. And so I just want to be as genuine with the love and beauty and truth that has flowed through my life, sometimes even through really difficult circumstances. I want to be really generous with that because it feels harmonious within. I don't know how to say that. So yeah, and I might make some decisions with the memoir to say or not say certain things at the very end, but in the process of the writing, it's been very beautiful to just be completely self-revealing and trust the love within me and trust the love coming through the voices of these muses, first and foremost.
That's beautiful, Linda. And I feel like as someone who feels like they sometimes live in a perfectly curated world where things are staged, I, for one, am all for a world where people are genuine and honest and, proudly and bravely so. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Al, sir. Al Milledge, where are you?
Hi, Jamie.
There you are. So, so rumor has it that, you created these pieces quite a while ago and, submitted them and, worked on them, edited them, and then you didn't really look at them again until closer to publication, and that you had a different response after that break. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. It fascinates me that I can go to class with a piece that I've got no real interest in. And it's, I've done the work for the week, maybe I've had a busy week or something, and I read this piece and the reaction I get is such a surprise. And then I saw what was happening was I was doing the same with my own writing. When I was editing it, I was editing it in a kind of a way of, oh, that's a nice line, or I remember writing that, that's quite good, you know. So it was kind of a bit discombobulated, you know. There's these little sections of it that I thought were quite good. And then it was edited over, as you say, over 6 weeks last year. And then recently Ria said, you need to go back and have a look and check out the bits that you like. And I read a couple of other pieces first by a couple of the other women, and read one of my pieces and just thought, wow, he gets it. Which is hilarious. You know, he gets the human condition. And then realized that I was reading my own piece.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It was, I was a bit dumbfounded, to be honest. But obviously just joyous that time and space can create that for me around my own pieces. Yeah.
Mm. It's beautiful because I feel like so many of us, even in the writing world or not, it's you can be your own harshest critic, right?
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
a little space and you're like, wow, this is a really smart guy. He gets the human condition. I can't think of a more beautiful way to describe someone than he gets the human condition.
We get so close to it, don't we, when we're editing, particularly. Even if I'm editing for fast, I notice that I get, you know, it feels a bit uncomfortable. I dig in a bit too deep, you know, and I'm trying to kind of remember what Jules has told me, you know, and kind of all of that 3 years of all of this stuff in my head comes to those few moments when I'm doing some editing. And then it becomes a concept and a project, and I lose the joy and the creativity and whatever. And then, of course, you read it in class, and I listen to other people's pieces, and I'm just, you know, when I'm listening to other people. And so then, of course, you start to see the joy in your own work. You know, you come out of the concept and you come back into that vulnerability that you were feeling, that was running through you when you were writing it.
Mm. 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 What advice would you give to a lot of the writers on the call, given this experience?
Just remember how harsh a critic we are about our own work. It's such a useful thing to remember. You won't while you're being harsh, but at some point it's good to remember that, because I think particularly because there's a temptation sometimes to cut away some of the beauty when you're editing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can come in softer than that. So now when I get kind of a bit grumpy about my work, you know, it's time to go and do something else for 5 minutes and then maybe come back to it.
That's a beautiful gift to give all the artists here. Thank you, Al. Thank you. Lucy.
Hello.
Hello, Lucy.
How are you?
Lovely. It's great to see you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So I really thought it was quite fun to talk to you because you are mostly known as a children's author. Wow. And as Linda had said earlier, some of the pieces in this book and some of your pieces are more of the adult variety. So what's it like for you going from a children's, you know, writer, published author to writing these pieces?
That's a great question. In a word, a very big challenge and scary. And just like Linda said earlier, the vulnerability that I've had to put myself through, if you like, to get there, because I guess for me, like one of the things through my life and my journey as a writer, as well as through life in general, has always been that I've hidden and I've been very scared to show who I am. And I feel like I've only just been starting to see this lately, but as a children's author, I was still able to do that. I was still able to play in the imagination world and play in the fun of creating something that's completely made up. So when I first got into method writing through Maria and then onto Jules's classes, every single button was pushed, let's say, because it was scary, and it was a case of, it's time to walk my talk now then, and it's time to come out of that comfort zone and show the world who I am and be this vulnerable writer, and allow, again, like Linda said, allow that truth to come out onto the page and allow myself to be visible and to be seen, because I bang on about that all the time, and then I realized I wasn't actually doing that, and the saying it and the doing it are two very different things. And again, some of those pieces that I've written, I am very scared of judgments that people might think when they read some of that, because it is very, very personal. But it is also my truth, and it is also, I am a huge believer in, why do we need to hide that? Why, when it's so natural, why do we need to hide behind who the core of who we are is, if you like? And I do feel, as a writer, as an artist, as my life journey, there's something that it feels in me that I am here to do that and to share that and to put that forward for myself and for others to feel safe in that space to show themselves vulnerably as well. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And I really think it's really remarkable as a established writer, right? An established creative publishing these children's books. This muse, this method writing has offered this whole nother level of creativity for you. It's almost like you've discovered a whole new well that wasn't there before. So I just think that's remarkable, especially for someone who already started with this creative base.
Yeah, exactly.
We actually have a question here from Jewel, and I think it would be appropriate here. So how, now that you've, once you went through that kind of muse energy, how did you find your writing changing?
I guess I began to open up even more. I thought I had already began to do that. And I don't think there's any depth to how much we can open up and how much more there is inside of us, and how abundant we are, and how much there is in that, like you say, Jamie, the well. It's like, as a human being on this planet, as a creative, as a writer, we are the creative essence and the creative genius of the universe. So how can there be any limits on that? So as Jules takes us through the levels and we get into the muses, something for me, it felt like hit even deeper in that well. And I was like, every time I get to a level, I'm like, can this get any deeper? Can we go any further here? Is there more? Is there more to see? And every single time I'm hit with a yes, there's more, there's more. And for me, as Jules was talking earlier about our own kind of personal take on that, it's like, am I brave enough to go there and keep digging and keep sharing and keep being more vulnerable on the page? And with a shitload of thinking, yes, I am.
I love it. I love the abundance. I always think about writers who, have writers. It's like, there's always abundance. There's no writer's block, right? It's like, you're an unending well of creativity. I love that. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Mer Monson, how are you today?
Awesome. So thrilled to be here. Thank you, Jamie.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is like an amazing gift for me. This is like a playground. I love it. Learning from all you wise artists. Tell me a little bit about, for this Muse level experience that you explored in class, that you're also explored on the pages of this book, how has it impacted you beyond just being a writer and a creative?
I could probably just say ditto to everything Lucy said and pass the baton here, but I'll put my own words to it for a minute. One of the memories that came back to me as I was listening to all of you was when I was a young mom. I had 3 little kids, and the way that I would ground myself was to go on a walk. I'd go walk around my neighborhood, usually at night. And I would often conjure up this wise old woman walking next to me. And I would talk to her, and I would spill my guts, and I would ask her questions, and she would have beautiful responses to me. And that was my first experience of consciously coming face to face with one of my own Muse energies. And that was many, many years ago. But this experience of writing from the Muses has kind of opened the floodgates of that world for me. In the first couple of years of writing, there was this phrase that would come up in almost every piece. And it was something like, there's not enough room to breathe, and I can't catch my breath. And I need more room to breathe. Like, that was a theme that would just show up. And writing from the Muses gave me room to breathe. Like, it allowed more of me to show up in my life, in my world, in my relationship with myself, and on the page. Like, it showed up in every context of all those places and parts and pieces of me that I was not allowing, was not noticing, was ignoring, was shaming, was whatever. Like, there was more of me present in my life and on the page. And incidentally, way more room to breathe.
That's beautiful. Even just seeing your smile as you describe it, it's like, I just feel like you're just living this bigger life.
Yeah, there's just more texture,
fuller life.
More texture, more depth, more richness, more fun, more pleasure, more everything.
And I love what you said about kind of tapping into that muse when you were on those walks, right? Like, it's always something within us that we can always call upon, even if we're not writing on the page, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the concept in writing of, I'm going to let these parts of me speak, not my idea of who I am, but these parts of my actual real me. And as they speak, cool things happen.
Yeah, give them some air to breathe.
Yeah, that's it.
Give them some air to breathe and like see what they have to say. I love that. I think that resonates with so many of us, our many sides and voices and perspectives, and making sure we're giving space to them all.
Yeah, I'm not sure which is the cool side effect, whether it's becoming a more textured, richer, happier human being, or whether it's that your writing becomes more textured and rich and deep. And I mean, they're both amazing gifts.
Yeah, I take both.
Yeah, for sure.
I take both. Well, thank you. That was really beautiful. Something I'm going to take with me as well. I think we're going to move to Dell, Adey-Jones. There you are, beautiful Dell. How are you?
Mute here. Okay.
There you go.
Hi, Jamie. Hi.
Hi. So you are not new to publishing your work in collaborative books. In fact, last December, you were a contributing author. And now, just not even 6 months later, here we are again. Would you talk a little bit about the vulnerability you felt and, maybe the difference between being published this last time and versus now?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. It was, I felt very vulnerable last time, and it was more about, not so much about what I was writing, it was more about my skills as a writer. I've only been writing for just over a couple of years now. And so I was much more in my ego about, oh God, I'm going to be judged, putting it out there. But the interesting thing was, the next day after I was published, I had this, I call it a guilt hangover, because I had shared a lot about my story. And then I went into my sort of thinking of, oh my God, who have I hurt? Who have I offended here? And so there was a lot of that going on. Whereas this time, I have like zero nerves. I mean, something might happen tomorrow, but I doubt it. I really doubt it. Because and even though this time I go much deeper into some of my experiences, they're quite sort of intimate and very vulnerable. There's a part of me that was less in my ego because of the Muses. I even sort of affectionately say it's like, I blame it on the Muses. So it wasn't me. The Muses wrote, it's not me. So I have a little more distance from it. I'm not as attached to it, but in a healthy way. And I think that is, and I'm echoing what everybody else has said. That's the beauty of Jules's classes, is that we are tapping into that creative genius that's working through us. And we've always done that throughout all the levels, but there was something about the Muses that was even more like out the way. I'm writing this piece, and this energy just poured forth and just took over. So it's a very different experience for me this time.
I love that as an artist, you're like offering these pieces without attachment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just sounds so incredibly freeing to me.
Yeah.
Kind of get out of your head in terms of what will people think or do or react.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is, and I think I think Mer touched on it a little bit there too. Years and years ago, I studied to be a shadow coach, and it's all about reclaiming the disowned aspects of yourself and integrating them into the whole. And the Muses really did feel like some of the disowned aspects that were hiding there, that were really eager to come out and express themselves and be seen and heard without that sort of me controlling or pushing down. So that was another really, again, it's as Mer said, it's that you feel fuller and more authentically expressed when you let all of those sides of you come and express themselves through you in the writing.
I love that. It's like you're going from almost muting it to amplifying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All those different pieces of us, to give them, as Mer said, the air to breathe, to amplify the voices.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So really, beyond just writing and doing this level and contributing these pieces, it really sounds to me like it's really changed your mindset about how you offer your art into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so different. It's so funny because I'm also a painter, and I recall times when I've had I've been in a show where I've hidden in the bathroom. I couldn't even stand next to my pieces because, again, it's the ego, not in the ego of like, oh, how great I am, but oh God, how awful I am. Whereas there's something with the Muses that you just, again, it's like you just the lack of attachment to this is me, this is what I'm putting out there. It's this beautiful energy that, as I say, just comes through you, that you really have to honor and not try and control and mold into what you think it should look like. It's like, like I said, it's like, it's not me, it's the Muse.
Not me, it's the Muse. I love that. It's not me, it's the Muse.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I love too, as an artist who has different mediums, that you really can kind of see how the approach really just affects your creative life as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you've just given me an idea there. I want to paint from the Muses now.
Well, I was just going to ask, have you ever painted from the Muses?
No, I haven't, but I think that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'll
love
let
that.
you know how it goes.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So going back to JB Hollows. Hello, JB. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
So we're talking a lot here about how this tapping into this muse energy is kind of beyond the written word, and how it's just affecting how we interact with others. So I know your background when you're not writing and being featured in books is that you work in the prison system. And I'm sure in that line of work, you have experience with people of, vastly different backgrounds. And so I'm curious, how do you see this tapping into the muse energy come into play in your other work?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think what happened to me as a writer, especially on this journey, on this method writing journey, tapping into those places that all the other authors have talked about, those unknown, hidden, deeper places, enabled me to see, first of all, that I have, everyone has what I have. Everyone's experienced the things that I'm shame. Everyone's experienced depression. Everyone's experienced overwhelming joy, and realizing that these aren't things that I have to hide and hide away from. And the Muses brought them out, like they highlighted them. Oh, hey, this is what's been going on for me. It makes me see that more in other humans too. And it makes me realize that beneath the surface of their persona or their current mask is this rich, complex essence of being human that we can so tap into. And what I was really struck with when the other writers were talking is that there's a lot of love, despite what these muses show up, and despite what they sort of how they show for us. They show it with love, and it's bespoke to each human that's sitting there. And that's made me realize, like, you don't have to be scared of what's showing up in another person. Because it's showing up, it's trying to show up through love. It might not look like that, but actually that's at the back of it. So it helps me have more perspective on that.
It's interesting, we're talking about these pieces of people. It's like, what a gift that you're giving to people, that they're being seen. All their different sides are being seen. They might be tapping down things, but you're shining light. That's beautiful.
It occurred to me recently, we had an adventure with some of the people that I've worked with, and we went walking up a hill, and it occurred to me that I don't know what it's like to see people killed in front of me. I don't know what it's like to watch a stabbing. I don't know what it's like to run away from the police. I can't imagine what those things are like. But people that I was with in nature became children again. They were giggling and hiding from us and popping up and laughing and just so childlike and beautiful. And I saw it there again. Oh, there's the child. There's the child muse popping out and just being there despite our experiences. yeah, that just reminded me again that it's really beautiful to keep seeing that showing up wherever you look.
And it sounds like as you explored your own, then you were able to see it in others.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And like I said, what a gift to give someone, to be able to be seen and be celebrated for all of our different bits and roles we have in our mind. That's beautiful, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennie. Where are you, Jennie? There you are.
I'm right here. Hello.
Hello. So you are a well-known poet, and I was curious how tapping in and writing from this muse energy has affected and influenced your poetry.
Yeah, it's had a big impact. I think method writing in general has a big impact on my writing. And what I love about the method writing process is that, we're honing our voice. We're honing the tone in our voice. We're practicing technique, but we don't ever know where the writing is going to take us. And as a poet, when I'm practicing the techniques in method writing, I'm able to take those journal entries and pull out poems. I'm so trained to find the container of the poem and put it on the page and break the lines and so forth. But when I hit the muse level this time, I've been studying method writing for almost 20 years with various teachers and have been with Jules for the past couple of years. And when I got to this level in the muses this time, I noticed that I needed more than my usual poetic structure. It needed extended sentences. I love about the muses is that we're asked to find, where does the muse live in our body? Where does it come from when we write from it? Where does it live in our lives? And as I started to write my muse pieces and then to start editing them, which is serious for me, to be editing for something, and often it gets very cut and moved and enhanced. But I noticed that for the first time, I was writing prose poems, which was totally new to me. These longer sentences, not breaking the lines. I needed more depth and more space. And the muses really asked that of me. And so I definitely think it changed my writing. And I love that about method writing too, is that we get to experiment with our voice, and it's always a surprise, like so many people have said, of what comes out. So it definitely enhanced, and this is the first time that I have published longer prose poems.
So yeah, so not only has it influenced the content, but even the structure. That's so fascinating to me. That's so fascinating to me. And, for you as someone who also, does poetry therapy and, works with other people to kind of find their voice on the page, how has working with the muses inspired, influenced that?
I think it can, and let me reference here, poetry therapy is very different than what we do in method writing. So I think that the muses definitely enhance my way of working with clients in how I may ask them to access something, right? Where does it live in your body? When, oh, you're describing that moment. Let's go there in more depth. I mean, I'm able to peel it back a little bit and really encourage them to stay there, to write that out. Because the muses are a part of our psyche, we have all of them inside of us. So I am inspired to possibly do more with the muses, with some of the therapeutic groups that I teach. I think that would be a wonderful way in. So I may play around with that, but for now, this is my way of showing up to the page and inspiring my voice. And that's what I love about it.
It's beautiful. And kind of, we've been talking about, I know one of our authors talked about the kind of unpeeling of the onion, So that's just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Pritcher.
Hi,
Hello
Jamie.
there, Linda. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Good,
Jamie?
good. I'm having a ball.
That's
This
good.
is great.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
I'm
tell.
learning so much. So you are a creative in way more than just the written word. You're a designer, you're an artist. So I'm curious to hear how the explorations of the Muses has, influenced your creative life in the other aspects of your arts.
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Okay, Jamie. I think that I'm totally unprepared for. That I think this exploration of the Muses has really impacted everything. That it's not just my creative life. It's the big picture of the creative life. It's not so much in a particular way, in a particular design way, or a particular art making way. It's really it's how I'm seeing life differently now, honestly, in more depth and breadth. I think that that with the Muses, that I saw something in my ability to write across deeply and from different perspectives, and that in and of itself has really changed how I see other people and how I interact with them now. It's a little hard to really put that into words, but I feel it, and I think many people who work with me now feel that too. So it's been quite profound, and that's, I'm just talking about the Muses right now, but also the whole of method writing. The whole process.
That's beautiful, though, because it seems like it has had this holy experience on kind of everything, with the way you interact with your clients, the way you interact with your art. That's really beautiful. Would you say, there was any aspect of it that was a challenge as you went through the Muses?
Oh, definitely. From the
Yeah,
get-go.
from the get-go.
Yeah. I mean, it is the hardest level, except for the first, which I've thought is kind of like a loving boot camp. And then next, when you go through a few more levels and you get to the fourth, and that's when you really have to look inside, because you're looking for that Muse energy, and it's not easy to find. I know I started with, I thought the first time, my first Muse, I would pick the child because it seemed like I'd been a child. That would be easy. And so I started writing and doing my journal entries, and suddenly I realized that the child was kind of being run over by Medusa and this rage. And so I thought I was starting to write one, and then I actually ended up writing another Muse. And this happened more than once. The second week I tried the child, and then the same thing happened. And actually the last Muse that I wrote was the child Muse. But the child for me was like an entry point. My child was an entry point for writing the horror. And so it's just interesting how the channel opens up and you're really not sure who's on the other side of the door until
Sounds like kind of a wild ride.
Yeah,
A wild ride.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So it sounds like even though you kind of had said to yourself, I'm going to write about this, it's like, no, the energy showed you something else.
The energy showed me something else, kind of like who was boss, particularly in the case of Medusa, or some of I think the Muses that had, for me, a lot more power and drive. And I think probably for everyone, just, we were to choose every week But as you said, they chose me.
They chose you. That's amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennie.
Jules, I want to jump to you real quick because we have a question from Caroline and Jewel about, and a couple of people have talked about it, feeling it in your body. How do you feel a muse in your body? And like, how do you tap into that?
Well, that's a great question. I think, without suggesting everybody does the first 3 levels, which I do think helps, because by the time you've got to the 4th level, you're more well versed with what's being asked, what you're asking of yourself as a writer. So, you're not maybe quite so resistant energetically. But the world is living in our body. I mean, I can only speak for what I believe is true, right? So I believe like we're part of everything, the universe and everything is part of me. And so there's all these kind of archetypal energies, you can feel it. Some people label it intuition. It can create low mood. Energy just has a formlessness to it, but it's part of who we are. And as part of the exercise, you pick a muse like the day after class, and then you kind of allow yourself to percolate on the muse, and the muse energy percolates with you. And and the way to sort of track it is, I always say to my students, look for an energy in your body. Don't think it's the first part of the body that speaks up. The muses that come later in the 7 weeks are the ones that are kind of standing in the wings saying, well, how committed are you to the process of listening to me? They're going to wait and see how you work with the first ones. And 9 times out of 10, people will say, oh yeah, I totally felt it in my solar plexus, or I felt it in my fingers. And I tell the story that I had a great excitement about doing my maiden virgin muse. I thought she was going to be gothic and black eyeliner, black eyebrows, black hair, black nail polish, lots of tattoos and piercings. This was my visual image, and sort of that rage against the world thing about her. And so I settled down with great excitement, conjuring up, where in my body is this energy, and excited about it. And she wasn't. She was a dragonfly, and she lived in the ends of my fingers, and she was absolutely beautiful. All those beautiful colors of a dragonfly wings was what she was made of. But what shocked me the most was that she was palpable joy. And I was unprepared for that. I didn't think anything about my maiden virgin would be close to the feeling of joy. Oh, it gives me tears to think about it now. She was joy. And to this day, if I'm wanting to conjure up, so people often ask, well, what happens once you've done the muse energy level? Well, the muses are with you forever. It's a writing class, guys. It's not therapy, right? So if I'm writing a poem or prose piece, I'll be like, oh yeah, into my fingers. Where's my joy? Where's that muse joy energy? And I'll put like a sprinkling of her energy onto the page. So, once you've been accessed by and access these energies, they're always part of your, your writing tool belt. And you have to look behind emotions. Like emotions create feelings, and so for some people they go to feelings. Then they go to emotions, and then I say, look behind that. It's not the feeling, it's the energy behind that. And then let that work with you onto the page. And I'm sure people will buy the book and they'll practice it, right? And they'll have their experience. But I will say it's a little different when you're in class and you have kind of, conditioned yourself through some of the other levels. There's a reason why it's not the first or second level. The first level is, oh my God, what did I sign up for? This is not the writing class I thought I wanted to do, take me to a prompt class quickly. The second and third levels are sort of, oh, I'm settling in now. I get it. Okay, I can do this, oh my gosh, look at me on the page. look at me on the page, you know, falling in love with myself a little bit more on the page. Oh, that's so beautiful to witness. And then fourth level comes around and says, okay, pull up your big girl pants. You really want to do this? Let's do this. Let's dance on the page. Let's pull everything out. And then you take a breath for the 5th and 6th level. And then the 7th level happens. And then it's the same question, you know, okay, where were those pants? Let me pull them up again and put the belt on, because here we go on level 7. And you know, when people are doing, like Anna's doing level 7, I don't think she'll mind me sharing that right now. And everyone in class, you know, is holding for that person because they're working in a different way. Many of you have done level 7, and level 4 is incredibly special. The Muses is a very, very special level for me. It's probably, my heart is very much in level 4. Does that answer the questions? I hope it does.
Yes, it does. It does. And it sounds like be surprised and be open to what will happen.
Be surprised, be open to who you are, you know, be open to how you will happen. Be open to how you will happen.
Love that. Thank you, Jules. Sharon. Hello.
Hey.
So, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So, what's it like for you to be published now?
Has it happened? Has it really happened?
It's happened. Oh, it's happened. I have the book. I have it. Yes.
No, I have to say it feels good. It feels a lot like a lot of the other authors have spoken about. It feels vulnerable. Feels like a stretch. Feels like I really I searched all over town for my big girl pants. And it was really, really challenging getting to this point, I have to say. I didn't know if I would do it. And the community, like the group of writers, the number of people that I turned to, I think you included, like, can I really do this? Can I really put myself out there? The love and the support was amazing. It has been all along. And I think there's this feeling like yeah, there is this humanity that we're all in together. There's this incredible creative genius. There's this inspiration. I think there's this desire to come forward and be real, be who we are, like not keep hiding. But there's also all of my thoughts and feelings, and a lot of people's thoughts and feelings about what that looks like and how it will be received. And so it's been quite a journey. But when you ask me the question, how does it feel now? It feels good. You know, I'm not, I have moments of wanting to tell the world and moments of definitely not wanting to tell the world. So all of that.
I love the idea of stretching, but it feels really good. Like
Yeah,
you're just glowing right now. So it's like you had to find those big girl pants and you put them on and you stretched.
Yeah.
And here you are on the other side. And
Yeah.
what's it offered you?
Well, you know, I think it is just a perfect metaphor for my desire in life. You know, it is so much, has always been a part of me to want to, and increasingly important to want to come forward and kind of take up my space, you know, live fully on this planet. And it's also been very much in my heart my whole life to facilitate that and for other people, and to just to show up in a way that encourages that, not necessarily be a facilitator, but encourages that, like opens doorways for all of us to just be who we are, because there's such a beauty to the messiness. There's such a beauty to all of the stuff, that all of the different aspects, all the different energies of who we are. And yet there is no other Jamie in the world. There is no other Sharon in the world that can bring forth that unique expression of it. So I feel like, you know, finding the big girl pants wasn't just about writing. It was about continuing that journey to show up and to welcome the humanity of all people, you know, And then the muse energies, like to come up against, I'm supposed to invite that kind of energy in, like that's the kind of energy I've been trying to get away from, right? Like that's the kind of energy that I've been cultivating out of me. But to experience welcoming it back in and tolerating it and maybe even loving it and having it become artistic. Any energy, any of these energies that come through us as human beings, that's been a powerful journey. It was kind of a relief to hear Jules say this is the hardest, you know, that was such a hard level, because she probably said that to me, but I may or may not have heard it. But I was having such a nice time writing until I got to the muse level.
But it sounds like this is so magical for you, because it's like aligning with your values.
That is the magic. And I think that is the only reason I am published, because if I were just doing what I wanted to do, you know, if I were just doing what was comfortable or fun for me, you know, I may not have been in this compilation, but it really put me to the test of, if this is what my life's about, I got to do it. I got to put my big girl pants on and show up, right? And so it was. I'm grateful for the call to action, and I'm grateful for all of the support. Like I would not have made it through without all the love and the support of every other person here. You know, and experiencing them coming forward on the page, experiencing their vulnerability, and this kind of, yeah, I get it. I know you don't necessarily want to put your pieces out there, and up to you. Total freedom, up to you. Just so
I love
you,
that.
yeah.
And thank you for putting on your big girl pants, because you're showing all these people here the gift of that. So thank you.
Oh, thanks so much.
Thank you. Anna Scott.
I am here. Hello.
How are you? How are you?
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know my bucket is full. I could just do this all day. So tell me about your experience being part of this book and this level, and how it's changed you.
There's a level in the method writing called surrealism, and I feel like this is surrealism at its best. It's I don't think that I've actually let the energy, it's just starting to run through me of what's really happened. I think I did the Muses and then put them away, because I think the power of them, and Jules, I remember one time when I wrote the first Muse, she's like, no, you're not getting it. And because I was on the sideline, I was writing from the observer of it rather than letting the energy run through me and let it write me. And now that I'm in Wild, I'm still in that, I can feel that same thing. But when I let Muse write me, it means I'm letting this energy live me. And I'm willing to let it do whatever it wants to do. And I reread some of my things I wrote, and I'm like, holy motherfucking, sorry, holy, like, I can't believe that's what was coming through me. It's not what good girls did, not what good girls said. So it's the truth of all of me. And instead of just, if I'm really going to do Muse energy, that it really means I'm going to really let this intelligence, this God in me, live my life. All of it. And that's very humbling. And it's beautiful. It's powerful. And it's like, you don't know where you're going. Oh, I'm doing this now. Okay, I guess I'm going to do that now. Oh, okay. And there's times you can bow out, but not really. It's like you're going on top of the roller coaster, and it's like, holy moly, hold on tight, because you're about to go down and then go through a curve. But don't worry, you got tracks.
I love that, because it sounds like in the beginning you were almost kind of controlling it. And then when you got that feedback from Jules, and then you kind of let it go and just let it take over.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that in my life. You know, Muses, this isn't on the paper. This is what I love about the writing is that this is a microcosm for all of life. It's like letting the muse, like letting this energy really live me in all of my life.
I love that.
And I
A
just
celebration.
I get to see, I get a place to practice it and then let it go into real life. Yeah, I think that's what I've seen is in Aikido, this is Aikido and Jules, you practice something so that you take it off the mat and you live it. But the practice is where the power is because there's safety in it. But then in safety, you get to just go all over the place. And then you go live it.
You learn the technique and then you live the technique.
The technique
I love
lives
that.
you.
The technique lives you. I love that. I love that. That's beautiful, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's just an honor to be in this Hollywood Squares with you guys.
It's awesome. It's awesome to see the, I just feel like you're all these flowers in a garden that are just like opening under the sun. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. Speaking of beautiful flowers, Vanessa with that beautiful background. So Vanessa, you know, as a writing teacher, because you also teach writing, how did writing from the Muses influence your craft and your interaction with your students?
I think that's such a great question because I'm a totally different kind of teacher. I have been a method writing student, I think a little bit longer than Jennie, 25 years, and working with Jack. And this is the third time I've done Muses. And Jules opened up a whole different level of it for me, which is always so interesting that you can just keep doing these things over and over again and just get deeper and deeper into the craft. But I don't teach method writing. I'm a method writer and I'm a method writing student. And as everybody's been talking about, it informs who you are as a person. And so it informs, a lot of us are also coaches. It informs who we are as coaches. It brings such a dimension to the gift that we have to give to the world and being authentic. And I get the opportunity to have heard what everybody said before me. But that idea of authenticity and the idea of this is not therapy. So my classes, I work a lot with people who have dealt with grief and loss. So my classes can veer toward therapy, but I always remind my students it's not therapy. It's about speaking your voice and telling your story and your story being heard by other people. So we talk about that fear of being out there, of being authentic, of being in the world. And I'm helping my students to process their stories and to have those stories be heard. And that's what this book is about, is for our stories to be heard by other people and to help them doing their own processing by listening to our stories. So I'm really honored that a bunch of my students are listening on this call and all of the stuff that they're going to be in for because of the way that this informs the way I'm going to teach them to bring out these energies, to bring out these voices, and to look at their own work with this kind of light that the Muses shine on us.
I love that. I love that you have so many students here too. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I know that they bought the book too. They'll email me back like, I just bought the book. So that's so exciting.
Nice.
Then I can refer to it. I can say, you know, look at this chapter, this piece that you wrote. How is this energy inform that piece? Or I can use it as an instructional tool, which I think is one of the powers of this book and the way that it's structured with talking about the exercise before you see how all these different women and men come out with completely different pieces using the same process, but with it coming out with a completely different voice. And just the honor of being in the room with these people, these authors. It's just amazing. And I wanted to say that thing about the therapeutic, how this is therapeutic and how it is not therapeutic, that we are honing our voices and building resilience through our writing. And the resilience to me is the power of the healing. That once you tell your story over and over and over again, it becomes a different part of you. And then when things happen to you, you can respond from a healthier place. And I see that over and over with my students, just how much stronger they get over time. And these voices we hear here, and the strength and the passion and the authenticity, that word kept coming up a couple times, how this is about being ourselves.
That's beautiful, Vanessa. Thank you. Well, our time is coming to an end. I have a couple more questions. I actually want to talk to Renu. Hello, Renu.
Hi.
So, Renu, the last method writing book that came out, A Different Story, you were one of the authors, and now your artwork is featured on the cover. A gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous painting. And so I wanted to, touch base with you and ask you what it was like to have another facet of your creative life be showcased in a method writing book.
Well, it was absolutely amazing because I constantly work at my craft, visually and in writing, and the twain met. But I was disappointed that I couldn't be in the book because I was moving, and I had internalized so many of the muses in different parts of my body, and to not be able to express that was a disappointment. So when I heard submissions were being accepted, I went through my work, and the actual image that I wound up having the privilege of being on the cover was really a ping. It was like, that's it, but I'll just forget about it. I'll just send it in. And it's very subjective as to what people like in art. So we'll let that go. Well, when people decided that they wanted the image, it was so amazing, because to have people from all parts of the world and different walks of life all agree on it, that was like, wow, there is a source, there is a unifying force in the world. And all these strands and pieces of things I've heard were solidified. Like Ben Shawn, an artist, says, we give form as artists and shape by the content. And so for me to see the content take form as an image was really exciting. And I kind of felt like, well, maybe it's age, I've waited so many years for this to happen. And it's really happening. It's a miracle, especially because of all of you being so profound and so deep, and being a part of this, both visually and in writing, is really something.
Well, thank you. You have definitely made your mark on this book with the beautiful cover, setting the tone. First thing people see. I'm sensitive to time. I know it is 1:30. Maria is recording this. We're not going to be but a few minutes longer if you'd be generous and hold on, but I know everyone's very, very busy. I just have one last question for Maria. And the question actually came from Mitchell. And the question is, what criteria was used to include the pieces that have ended up in the book? There's around 14 authors, yet only 10 pieces in each muse. How were they chosen?
Shall I just say, first of all, with great difficulty. When we received all of the submissions, we wondered about whether we could come up with a criteria. So the 4 of us were involved. So there was Jules, Jacqueline Hollows, Jamie, you and me. The 4 of us were involved in choosing all the pieces. And we just knew that we couldn't have all of the pieces in the book. It would have been way too big. So it was down to each one of us looking at all of the pieces and trying to, from our hearts, say which pieces we liked. We tried to rank them, and what made it so difficult with it when there's 4 of us is like the ranking was just so different with all of us as well. So we just kept going and going with it, and just seeing whether we could find the pieces that spoke to us. And we can't really say that there was a criteria to them at all. It was just all 4 of us trying to go with the feeling that we had from all of the pieces, because they were all such brilliant pieces. Every single piece that was submitted was just brilliant, and we would have wanted to have them in the book. So it was a subjective conversation, and multiple conversations between us. Like we didn't do it in one conversation. We looked at them a few times. And then, of course, it wasn't only then which pieces we chose, but then what order do we put them in? Mm-hmm. And so that was different again, and we had different ideas about that. And it's almost like one of the things that we talk about with the writing, and I think it really comes out strongly in the method writing, is that when we're writing, and when we're doing the method writing, although we've been talking about the muse energies, what we're talking about is tapping into something much deeper within all of us, and it's coming from a different place. All of the writing is coming from a different place, and more, if we talk about the intelligence behind life or creative genius or mind, if for 3 principles people, like, it's coming from a deeper place. And I think that's what happened when we were choosing the pieces, and when we were choosing the order of the pieces. Like we between the 4 of us, we were coming from that deeper place to intuitively sense where the pieces should lie within the book. And even to the point of from an intuitive perspective, the order of the muses got slightly changed around. Like we put them in kind of the order that we kind of know them of. If you rattle off the muses, and Jules does it, she'll rattle them off child, maiden, in that order. But even then we kind of switched the order around because of I'm going to say this is because we wanted Linda Pettit's piece right at the very end, like that, the final sentence in the book about divine feminine was just what summed up the whole book. So there was an intuition that was going on with how we ordered the pieces, and that's as much as I can say about it, really. It wasn't an easy decision, was it?
And so what are those muses again?
Oh, blimey, now you're putting me on the spot.
Well, Jules can do it. That was a question. Someone just asked me the question. So I wanted
but slower this time, Jules.
Child, maiden, virgin, mother, siren, seductress, whore, crone, hag, witch, huntress, and Medusa. But if it's a guy, as Al knows, we change it. He's a wizard and a sage.
Love it.
So, and all of the muses are listed in the book as well. You'll see all the muses. We tried to emulate. That was the other thing that is different about this book, because the way that the method writing is taught by Jules in this class is different to the way that she does other the levels. Because what happens with the other levels is you get an exercise and you practice the exercise. With the muses, you're not given the muse that you're writing from each time. You're choosing the muse yourself. And then what happens is Jules will talk about the muse after you've written. So the book is set up purposely in that way. So what happens is you'll have the first muse in the book. We don't tell you which muse it is, and you don't find out which muse it is until the end, which each chapter has a little epilogue, and that emulates the way that the classes run as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all. Thank you for all the attendees, for sharing this space with us, to witness this gorgeous, creative work that is Stories from the Muses. Thank you to all the authors for their generosity in sharing their experiences, for their authenticity. If you haven't yet, pick up your copy today. The links are in the chat. And the writing is just stellar, as are the authors. If you have any comments, we would love to receive them. Ria, I think, have you opened it up, Ria, so we can receive comments?
Let me do that right now, and then everybody.
Okay.
So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So please, we'd love to hear your comments. Please feel free to pop them in the chat. We'd love to receive them. Remember, proceeds from the book go to those who are in financial hardship to bring their stories into the world. Keep in touch with IW Press. The Eventbrite, after today, you're going to get out a blast with everyone's contact information of the author. So stay in touch. Their future events, Anna Scott's podcasts, and more intimate author videos coming in the coming months. And of course, more information about method writing, julesswales.com. And I thank you so much for spending a beautiful hour and a half with us this afternoon, morning, evening.
And thank you, Jamie and Dan. That's such beautiful, beautiful hosting, and your husband Dan for all the technical stuff in the background. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for a beautiful evening.
Thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you.